Carrasco, end zone. Oh, my goodness! Needle, step back for the win! Ah! The middle room for Beasley leaps over a defender and scores! Watson hits it the other way. Deep to left field. It is gone! Now the catch. Wrestled down on the 2. Coastal wins it. The Teal is for real.
This is the Teal Syndicate Podcast. Your home for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
Welcome back to the Teal Syndicate Podcast, Episode 2, here on July 27th. My name's TJ O'Sullivan. Glad to have you with us for another episode as we take a deeper dive into the preseason of Coastal Carolina football. But first, we made an announcement on social media. Officially official. We've got Joe Cashion back on the podcast. Joe, you are officially syndicated. How does it feel?
Well, I don't even know how to describe that feeling, TJ. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Had a great time on episode number 1 with you guys, and looking forward to doing this on a regular basis. Appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. We could not be more excited to have you. Joe Cashion going to be on the syndicate from here on out. Great times to come. And now, Joe, we get to jump right into the second episode. Last week, we kind of talked about how the offseason was. We used the word tumultuous about 18 times. I counted. There was a lot. I got told by multiple people we cannot use that word again, which is why I said it immediately as we started episode 2. Tumultuous was the word of episode 1. This week, we're going to talk about the previewing the Coastal Carolina 2026 football season. Let's start with a recap, Joe. Let's talk about how 2025 went. Finished the regular season 6-6, but that doesn't exactly tell the whole story, does it?
No, it really doesn't, TJ. I mean, anybody that watched last season just had to kind of cringe when you go back and you start thinking about how the season started and then how everything really kind of turned around with the emergence of one guy. And then when he went down late in the season, everything kind of went right back to where we started the year, right? I mean, the offense was just a disaster. If you go back and look at the numbers on how we were so ineffective at running, throwing, total offense, all that kind of stuff, just didn't really have anything going on. And then the emergence of Samari Collier, he comes along, and all of a sudden, things pick up, right? In the middle half of the season with the ULM game, when he comes in for Tad Hudson, he just picks everything up. Everybody seemed to kind of rise and play at a higher level when Collier came on the scene. And for about 4 or 5 games, this team looked like they were ready to rock and roll. And then he goes down against Georgia Southern, and then, kind of right back to where we started. And
I think it's important to sort of provide that context. Like, Coastal started the season 2-3. That was prior to Collier coming into the starting role. They start the season 2-3, all 3 losses. They weren't even close. 38+ points, losses to Virginia to start the season. They lose a couple more games to start the season. And then when Collier finally steps in, I mean, you get this feeling that, like, Coastal's figured something out. They're starting to run the ball a little better with Collier back there. They're starting to run more RPO out of, it's very, you start to see the reminisce. You start to reminisce of days of old. And then he goes down against Georgia Southern, and that's the nail in the coffin for the season. They lose Georgia Southern. They lose to South Carolina and James Madison, both 40+ point blowouts, and they finish the season 6-6. That could have been a 9-win season if they stayed on the track. Not saying that they're going to beat South Carolina and James Madison, but you've got at least 7 wins on the schedule, I think, heading into the Georgia Southern game.
I don't think there's any question about that. If you go back to the preseason outlook for last year, and we had Drew Hollingshead, who came in as the new offensive coordinator. Remember, Tim Beck made a bunch of offseason changes, changed the coordinators. There were some other coaching changes elsewhere. Drew Hollingshead came in as a Mike Leach disciple to throw the air raid offense at people. That's kind of what everybody was expecting. That's kind of what we were thinking. And then going into the season, going into camp, in camp, the quarterback, though, I think they thought was going to be the guy to pull the trigger on that offense. Emmett Brown goes down. Kid from San Jose State, right? So he goes out, he's down. MJ Morris winds up winning the position and was just, and this is nothing personal to MJ Morris, was completely ineffective, right? I mean,
he did not live up.
No, I mean, just couldn't. I mean, he was a P4 transfer who came into us, right? That Beck had seen before. Couldn't move anything. And so Tad Hudson has to come in the Charleston Southern game where we managed a grand total of 13 points, for crying out loud, right? That's the fewest points that Charleston Southern has ever given up to an FBS school, by the way. 13 points. We won 13-0. Had to score late to do that. A fourth quarter touchdown drive. That just kind of tells you how ineffective and inept we were offensively. Then get shut out at home against East Carolina. Can't get anything done. Hudson throws, I think, 5 picks in that game or something like that. He turned it over 5 times. Then he looks okay against South Alabama. It was defense that night that really won the game at South Alabama. Coastal put 38 points on the board. And then, go to Old Dominion and just get boat raced up there 47-7. Get into the ULM game, and then Tad goes down, and all of a sudden here comes Samari Collier, and things start to happen. As you alluded to, more of an RPO kind of type offense. People started to respond to Samari Collier on both sides of the ball, right? Collier brought something to this team that I hadn't seen since Grayson McCall, and that was a belief in a kid that was going to get things done, and that kids were thinking, okay, we're going to be all right with him on the field. We're going to be okay, and everybody picked up their level of play. I mean, you just look at it, right? I mean, App State, Marshall, Georgia State. 45, 44, and 40 points on the board in those 3 ball games. We win those games, and we look really good doing it. It's like, okay, we got the right – finally, whether by accident, design, whatever, we got the right guy at the quarterback spot, and things are starting to happen. And then you get in the Georgia Southern game and, start off good in that game, and then all of a sudden he goes down. Tad Hudson comes in and plays well, but we don't wind up getting the win, and then, things go downhill. We don't win anything the rest of the year, lose out the regular season, and then lose the bowl game. But, everything if you can say one play, people don't understand how important the quarterback position is in football. I'll just look back at Coastal's
toughest position in sports.
I mean, it is the most critical position on the field, as you said, in sports. I would agree with that. If you get the right guy back there, things can happen. If you don't, there's no telling what's liable to happen.
Now, take your journalism background, your broadcasting background, set it aside for a second. I want you to lean into your fan perspective for a second, okay? It feels like since Grayson McCall, since James Madison really came into the conference, Coastal has not played their starting quarterback or whoever the quarterback is. We can't even call Collier the starting quarterback. He's the guy that came in and got the job done. We have never faced James Madison with a starting quarterback. How does that make you feel? How do you feel like the fan base feels? Kind of a sidebar here.
Oh, that's a great question, TJ. I mean, you think back to 2022, which is the first time we saw them, when they came into the conference, and we didn't have, obviously Grayson was out, and he came back in the bowl game, but he was not available for that particular game. And, we just didn't have anything going on. And that was up at James Madison, and they were on a mission. That was kind of like one of those things where that was their bowl game. We went up there to play them in 22 and, just couldn't get anything done. And then in 23, right, I mean, we had Vasco. We had Ethan Vasco out there running around, and, he wasn't playing poorly. He had to come in. He was a third quarterback that year in 23, right? Yeah. Because McCall went down and we lost, another guy. And then here comes Vasco came in against Old Dominion and did well and kind of led us to a couple of wins there. And then, again, we don't have Grayson in that game. right? Would have been great to have had him on the field for those 2 games against James Madison. And then in 24, Vasco again up there I think that was a Thursday night game. We just get hammered up there. We haven't shown up in any time against James Madison. Whenever we get to talking about the 26 schedule, I can we compete against these guys at least one time, right? But and again, last year we don't have Collier. We don't have Collier out there running around. Maybe that would have been different. I'm not sure we beat South Carolina with Samari Collier, but I know dang well that had he been on the field against James Madison and we, our kids had kept the momentum of those 4 games where he really stepped in and did some things, that's not a 59-10 loss. I'm sorry, it's just not. And the bowl game's not the bowl game against Louisiana Tech. You're talking about a 9-win season that could have been, absolutely. Without him, just with him, we beat Louisiana Tech, and I think we're right there with James Madison. But
yeah, I mean,
it would be great to have a starting quarterback against James.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you bring up an interesting point, right? It's 2-3 to start the season. Right. Then Samari Collier comes in against ULM in the 6th game of the season. They rattle off 4 straight wins. Right. They're heading into Georgia Southern, I believe. Right. Yes. Georgia Southern. They're heading into Georgia Southern with 4 straight wins.
Yep.
And imagine the locker room and the way that's affected if you pull off the win against Georgia Southern. Samari Collier doesn't go down. Now you're heading to Columbia on 5 straight wins. Just imagine that. Not saying that Coastal Carolina magically competes with an SEC team last year, but at the same time, that's a completely different dynamic in that locker room. Samari Collier's injury really killed the season.
Bingo, 100%. No question about it. I mean, him going down in that game against Georgia Southern really ended the season. Quite frankly. Now, Hudson came in and did an admirable job to keep us in that game in Statesboro, but we came up short. But had Collier been on the field against a bad South Carolina football team last year, they weren't good. Did we go to Columbia and win? I don't know, but I guarantee you it would not have been 51-7. We don't come out and just get boat raced right at the beginning of that game.
Absolutely.
Compete. Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, and Collier was that kind of guy that I heard our coaches back in the day talk about Grayson. It's like when he's on the field, everybody has a different belief. Everybody believes, right? That Coastal has, we have a chance to win. We're in great shape. We're going to be okay. Right. There aren't many kids like that. There's not many guys like that called difference makers. Where you just have a belief in somebody that, okay, no matter what happens, we're going to be fine. Grayson was that kind of guy, and for about 4.5 games last year, so was Samari Collier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I realize now that I kind of said that like it was breaking news, like I'm revealing the fact that Samari Collier's injury was a big deal. But no, I just the context of knowing that after the 9th game of the season, you are bowl eligible and you finish 6-7. That's just a tremendous hit on the season. And you could have seen a much bigger season. And who knows, maybe Tim Beck sticks around should that season works out. I don't know what the conversations would have been, but that season had a huge impact on the football program. And it really came down to one player and an unfortunate break for the football program.
TJ, that's a great point because we were talking about this at some of my contemporaries were talking about this at the end of last year because after the first handful of games after the 24 season, we start off poorly. 25, what's going to happen in 26? Is Tim Beck going to be around? And it's kind of like, no, there's no way, not the way this team is playing. And all of a sudden,
if you rattle off 8-9 wins, that changes the conversation.
There's no question about it. There is no question about that. If you win 8-9 ball games, how can you fire the coach?
Yeah.
And look good winning those games. How do you fire the coach? The answer is you can't and you don't.
Yeah. So a huge loss to Coastal Carolina last season. I know it's not breaking news, but that's the context. That's just how much that meant to Coastal Carolina. It potentially cost Tim Beck his job, and Coastal could have had another 9-win season. It could have been 6 losses, or it could have been a 6-win season in 24, and then 25, we're right back on track, and Coastal Carolina is still considered to be a prominent player in G5. And now, 6-win season later, instead, because of the injury, Coastal Carolina needs to now revamp and reload. And it's just a completely different, I guess, way that you describe Coastal Carolina.
The injury and the culture, those two things were what did him in at the end.
No, absolutely. And speaking of Samari Collier, he is currently in the middle of a legal battle with the NCAA to try and get another year of eligibility because he lost a year of competition. We'll see what happens. There's no news on that yet, but he is in the middle of a lawsuit, or he's looking for an injunction, rather, whatever the legal terminology is. So we'll keep you updated on that. We've also got some news on another potential, NCAA incident that's going to affect this year's Coastal Carolina football team. We're going to talk about that and more when we preview the roster for 2026. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Teal Syndicate Podcast. Welcome back to the Teal Syndicate Podcast, your home for Chanticleer Athletics. TJ O'Sullivan and Joe Cashion back with you as we take a look at the roster heading into the 2026 season. We alluded before the break that there was some news about this particular roster, another lawsuit, another injunction, legal situation. Emil Sibafundi, the punter for Coastal Carolina, he posted on his Instagram about a week ago that the NCAA denied his appeal. So the Athlon Sports preseason all Sun Belt punter is no longer going to be on the Coastal Carolina roster. Joe, let's just kind of touch on this for a second. I mean, Sibafundi has done a tremendous job for Coastal Carolina in the punt game. Losing him and now looking at a room that has all new people. You bring in 2 transfers at punter. What kind of impact is that going to have on special teams?
I think it's a big impact, to be honest with you. I mean, if we have no Sibafundi this year, I mean, it's wide open. I mean, you need somebody effective at that position to be able to flip the field, right? I mean, it's a field position game. A lot of times in a ball game when you need to flip the field. And, we used to have a kid named Evan Crenshaw who wound up going to Troy and becoming an all-conference punter over there and a Reg I candidate. And Sibafundi comes in. And Sibafundi did a good job for us last year. I really do, believe that. If you watch him, he did a good job. But I hate that apparently it would appear that he's not going to be available for Coastal this year. So, I mean, that kind of puts you in a bind right now. I mean, we're on the eve of fall camp. So what do you do? I mean, where do you look? Where do you turn at this point, right? Because that is a critical position on the field in terms of field position, flipping the field, putting your defense in a good spot where they need to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you talk about who you've got coming back. With Sibafundi leaving, we'll just start with special teams. Kicker and punter. You've got 2 kickers and 2 punters on the roster now, and all 4 of them are transfers. Mm-hmm. You don't have any continuity in special teams right now. The only continuity you have is Gavin Carrick at long snapper. That's it. So special teams, Ryan Beard comes from that background. I'm sure he'll figure something out, but that's going to be a task. Trying to figure out who's going to put their foot on the ball and either put 3 points up or flip the field, as you mentioned. That it's a big piece of the game, and I think it's something that we all want to talk about. The quarterback battle. We all want to talk about the running backs. Special teams is going to have an impact on this season, depending on how they gel over this offseason. let's go through the roster right now. As we mentioned, quarterback battle in place. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But if there was one thing, Joe, that you could sort of attribute to Coastal Carolina's struggles in 2025, is there one particular piece of the offense that you would point to?
All of it. I mean, literally all of it. I mean, this team did not run the ball effectively. We'll get into that here shortly, right? I mean, there'll be some more numbers on that coming up. Didn't run it effectively, didn't throw it effectively. Even with Collier out there, I mean, this team threw 14 touchdown passes last year, right? 13 picks. That's kind of like, goodness, right? I mean, it's got to be better than that. I mean, just couldn't get anything going in terms of moving the ball effectively other than Collier being out there on the field. And Collier did a lot of that. He was our second leading rusher last year, over 400 yards rushing, rushed for 7 touchdowns. But other than him, Javen Simpkins did a good job, but he's gone, right? Got to be able to run the ball, got to be able to throw the ball effectively. It'll be interesting to see, what this offense looks like under Ryan Beard and Nick Petrino, the offensive coordinator. So, just they got to be better in every phase, right? I mean, and then the offensive line's got to be better. All new starters up there. I'm sure you're going to touch on that here in a second, but I mean, it's just like an across the board kind of deal where it's a clean slate.
No,
right?
Absolutely.
It's a clean slate and everything. Got to be better in everything that we're trying to do to move the football.
No, I agree. It is a clean slate heading into this year, but the answer I was looking for was running backs. Rushing the football, not doing a great job last year. We're going to throw it over to Kyle. Kyle Nashheim back with another 2-minute strange stat segment. He's going to talk about how running the football needs to improve heading into 2026.
If Coastal Carolina football had a New Year's resolution for 2026, it might be pretty simple. Run the ball a lot better.
You need 1 yard. Run the ball. Run the ball.
The Chanticleers rushed for just 2,026 yards in 2025. That was only the second time since 2018 they failed to crack 2,100 rushing yards. In fact, it was the second lowest rushing total of the era. Only the 2,010 yards from Tim Beck's first season in 2023 were lower. And here's the stat that tells the whole story. When Coastal won, they averaged nearly 250 rushing yards per game, 6 wins, 1,497 rushing yards, and every victory except South Alabama featured at least 200 yards on the ground. When they lost, well, just 75.6 rushing yards per game. Every loss except Georgia Southern came with fewer than 100 rushing yards, and James Madison somehow held the Chants to -5 rushing yards.
What?
-5. At that point, the running backs owed the offensive line a few yards.
But wait! There's more!
Now the good news. The Chants returned about 40% of last year's rushing yards, led by Dominic Nicely with 388 yards and Javon Edwards with 368. But the transfer portal may hold the biggest storyline. Conte Edwards arrives after putting up a monster season at Lafayette. 1,454 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns in just 10 games. That's the kind of production that'll get any offensive coordinator smiling. Rice transfer Dalen Alexander adds nearly 400 more rushing yards, and don't forget Jaden Allen Hendricks, who didn't see the field at Oklahoma State but once ran for over 2,200 yards and 25 touchdowns in his final high school season. So the blueprint for Coastal in 2026 might be pretty simple. To quote the great Richard Sherman,
Run the dang ball!
Because last year when the Chants hit 200 rushing yards, they usually celebrated in the locker room. When they didn't, well, the post-game bus ride was probably a whole lot quieter. For Teal Syndicate, I'm Kyle Nashheim, and this has been One Strange Stat.
Thanks, Kyle. Another strange stat segment from another WCCU alumni. Like we said last week, he's going to be giving us a 2-minute segment every single show. 38.7% is the exact number of the rushing coming back for Coastal Carolina, mainly in the form of Dominic Nicely and Javon Edwards. Joe, what does, in your opinion, and I'll let you share your opinion on it, what does the run game need to do better other than obviously move the ball forward?
It's got to be the lead part of your offense, TJ. I mean, if you can't run the ball, you really can't be effective anywhere else. And you just heard that stat about -5 rushing yards against James Madison. That's the lowest single game rushing figure in school history, right? I mean, that's you got to go all the way back to 2011 and the Catawba game, if you can even believe that. 2011 against Catawba against a D2 team where Coastal ran for 13 yards in that game that night. I remember watching that game thinking, man, we can't move the ball against this crowd. -5 against James Madison was the worst in school history. So obviously that has got to have to pick up. I mean, you can't have a run game where that just opens everything up, right?
Yeah.
If you can run the ball effectively, and I liked Dominic Nicely last year. I thought him and Simpkins gave us, when they were effective, when we were actually able to run the ball with these guys, they were pretty effective running the ball. Obviously, we don't have Simpkins back this year, but we do have Nicely back, and a kid from Oklahoma State, Jaden Allen Hendricks, is coming in, and so we'll see what he's got, right? So I mean, I think there's some bodies there that can do it, but again, in order to open up the passing game, you have to be able to run the ball effectively. And again, that's when Samari Collier was your second leading rusher, that was kind of an anomaly. When the run game picked up, he was the guy who was kind of the catalyst behind that, right? I mean, 85-yard touchdown run against Georgia State last year, second longest touchdown run in school history.
Absolutely.
You need your running backs to be able to carry that load a lot more than your quarterback typically.
No, absolutely. And we'll see. It's kind of funny hearing, in 2026 now, with all the success that Coastal has had since 2020 on the ground, that we're talking about a struggling running back room and looking for improvements in 2026. That's just it's a foreign concept to me, hearing that Coastal Carolina had struggles running the football. So this season, I think, is a big one for Coastal Carolina, especially on the ground. Kente Edwards from Lafayette College is the guy I've got my eye on. In the FCS, ran for 1454 on the ground, 20 touchdowns all on the ground. Including 3 200-plus yard performances. I get that it's FCS, but that's a talented runner. And Kyle made note of him in his segment. I think Kente Edwards is somebody you got to keep your eye on. You mentioned Jaden Allen Hendricks coming over from Oklahoma State. Had no real action at Oklahoma State, but that's still a Power 4 transfer and a highly regarded South Carolina recruit coming back home.
Out of Irmo High School. Indeed, he was highly recruited. So maybe he comes to Coastal and finally, finds a place where he flourishes, where he gets that action. And, and again, I think a lot of the ineffectiveness in every area last year had maybe more to do with the culture and other things going on. I've always believed there's talent on this roster, and there was talent on the roster last year. I just don't believe the culture has ever really been right in the last couple of years. I think if that piece gets figured out, you'll see some of these talented kids really start to flourish, and we'll see how good they are and how better this run game can be, especially, again, a new offensive line up there, some names you just talked about, some names I've mentioned. Get the culture right. Let's get these guys, in the right mindset. We get the guy right under center taking snaps. You'll see a run game get better.
Absolutely. One more guy I want to just touch on, Dalen Alexander, transfers in from Rice. He had 392 yards last season, including a 74-yard performance against Louisiana. So a guy who has proven that he can compete against Sunbelt opponents. We're going to see that on full display this season as well. I think that the Coastal running back room this year, it's dynamic. Right, you've got a Dominic Nicely, kind of a bruiser, and then you've got a lot of guys that can go east to west really well. So I think that they're going to work off of each other really well in 2026. And now it feels like you've got, I remember just a couple years ago, it was C.J. Beasley and you had Braden Bennett, and then all of a sudden you've got Max Balthazar, right? That name that just pops up, and it's like they've got stables. It feels like just from the names and what they look like on paper, what they look like on film, it feels like Coastal's getting back to they've got guys in the wings, right? They've got guys that are going to step up and contribute. So very excited about the running back room in 2026. Which brings us to the passing game. They returned 5 wide receivers. They've got 5 transfers, 3 freshmen, headlined by Robbie Washington, who Robbie Washington is the only touchdown pass completer coming back in 2026. So congratulations to him. He's the best quarterback returning for Coastal Carolina. Whatever that means,
right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So wide receiver room, but I really do want to talk about the O-line because as you mentioned before, it's an all new offensive line, yet they have 7 returners. And this was a unit last year that for as poorly as we alluded to, as poorly as they did on the ground and as non-effective as they were in the air, the O-line actually didn't do a half bad job. They only gave up 24 sacks on the season, less than 2 a game, about a middle of the pack in FBS, not overly successful, but not overwhelmingly bad either. Offensive line, 7 returners. What do you think needs to happen there?
I think Coach Wareheim did a good job with the O-line in his 3 years at Coastal. Obviously, he's moved on now, but, when you have all new projected starters up there, it's just kind of like, okay, we lost 2 offensive linemen. We lost a couple of tackles to P4 programs. Nick Del Grande was a big loss for us. He went to Duke. He was an all-conference kid, and he got hurt late last year, and we really felt his loss. But, I mean, when you have an all-new offensive front, it's just kind of like, okay, what are we dealing with here, right? I mean, what are these guys' strengths? What are these guys, what are they really good at that we can lean on these guys to make things get things going offensively. So it's just, I look at some of these names where they're coming from. I'm excited about some of these guys. I mean, I haven't gotten into them a whole lot yet, and I will as we get into camp and we get closer to the start of the season. But it's just fascinating to me that you've got a projected lineup of guys that, are going to have to come together and figure this thing out. I mean, if you don't have things right up front offensively with your offensive line, you are really going to struggle. And I do agree with your point that I don't think those guys played poorly last year. I really don't. I think their struggles again were the result of other things that were going on that we didn't have right elsewhere, that Coastal didn't have right elsewhere. I think hopefully that gets fixed this year. So, I mean, we've got guys with size, with some experience, and we'll be able to move the ball better on the ground and then do a better job for our quarterbacks this year. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to watching a new group of guys try to come together and coalesce into a cohesive unit.
No, absolutely. And if you follow us on Instagram at Teal Syndicate, you can look at the first sort of rendition of the offensive line room at Coastal for 2026. Just look at some of the names. Jonathan, you touched on the height, right? You touched on the size.
Yep.
Jonathan Ashley, 6'4", 300, redshirt junior. Joshua Daniels, 6'4", 320. Trey Franklin, 6'5", 315. 6'6", 298 for Daniel Jones. 6'2" is the shortest guy on the offensive line in this post in Kane McDonald, 305. Dominic Rios, 6'2", 320. Gavin McLaughlin, 6'4", 315. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, we were calling them the Mighty Mites.
The Mighty Mites.
And now,
yeah, absolutely.
And now all of a sudden, these guys, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". Like, this is a big group. And if they can gel, they're going to push some people around here in the Sun Belt.
No question about that. Yeah, I do remember the Mighty Mites. I mean, they were good at that spread option offense, kind of being able to just not overpower folks, but move people around and influence folks in such a way that we were able to hit things all, often out of that spread option offense. But yeah, there's a lot of size and height up there. So again, watching these guys come together, it will be very interesting to see how it happens and how quickly it can happen. Hopefully it happens fast.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the defense. We're kind of just going to touch on this because there's a lot of questions to answer on defense as well. They return a solid core all around when you look at just the sheer numbers, but it's an all new defensive tackle room. There's all new guys. There's no returners in the middle of the defensive line. You've got 4 returning defensive ends, 5 transfers, 2 freshmen, right? So a lot of movement there as well. 5 returning linebackers and 6 returning safeties, which are probably the 2 position groups that retain the most. But then you see corners. Jamarian Wayne's the only returning corner on the entire roster. And then, like we mentioned, all new kickers, all new punters, Gavin Carrick returning at long snappers, just about it on special teams. So just to kind of put a bow on this whole thing, is there any particular position room that you're interested in watching? It could be on the defensive or offensive side of the ball.
I do like the defensive line before I tell you the other group that we're going to talk about here in a minute, but I do like the defensive line. I'm glad that Diawara is coming back. Apparently Coach, LD Brown, our new defensive coordinator, really likes the defensive line that he's got. We have to be good up front on the defensive front. That's where it all starts on that side of the ball, right? If we've got guys, if we have 7 or 8 guys that we can rotate in there and we don't lose a lot, right? Because they're going to play a lot of snaps and you got to have to rotate guys in there to keep them fresh. If we keep that defensive line fresh, and these guys are equally talented and we don't lose a lot if we take a guy out and run another guy out there, then I'm interested to watch that. But obviously, if you're looking at a position on the football team that really interests me the most, and that's why I was just about to say the quarterback position, right? I mean, you've got to be great there. No, if you're not good at quarterback, you're just not going to be good. We saw it last year. When we were good, we were good, and when we weren't, we weren't. So that will be one that definitely is one to watch coming up in 26.
Absolutely. And we intentionally left them out because we also have a mailbag segment, which is coming up next. So first question on the docket, the one that we got the most. Who's going to play quarterback in 2026? We're going to talk about that and a couple other questions that we got on social media next here on the Teal Syndicate Podcast.
This is the Teal Syndicate Podcast, your home for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
And we're back here on the Teal Syndicate Podcast, wrapping up here with a Friday mailbag, we're going to call it. I know it's Monday that you're listening to this. We're recording this on Sunday night, but we put out a mailbag segment or a mailbag post on our Instagram page. And now myself, TJ O'Sullivan and Joe Cashion are going to answer some of those questions for you. The very first question that we're going to talk about, also the question that it seemed like more people were interested to listen to. Quarterback battle. Who's got the best chance to start the opening game in 2026? And Ryan Beard had made clear at media days that the team is going to decide who the starting quarterback is. Not that they're going to hold a vote like you alluded to last week, but that it's going to become evident. So with all of that mystery surrounding the position battle, we get to talk a little bit about it. We get to make our speculations now. So let's run through the 4 quarterbacks that are competing for QB1 in 2026. First up, you got Deuce Bailey, transfer in from Missouri State, 6 foot, 170 redshirt freshman. Last season in 2025, threw for 335 yards, 87 rushing yards, and 3 total touchdowns in limited action. That's the guy that came over with Ryan Beard, and a lot of people are looking as the main guy in this quarterback battle. The guy Phil Steele thinks is going to get the starting job, Trey Guerra, the redshirt junior from Tyler College, 6'2", 190, 2025. He threw for 2,811 yards, 14 rushing yards, 24 total touchdowns. Then you got Trevor Jackson, transfer in from Arkansas. He played in just one game. He's got 2 rushing yards, and he was a 4-star in high school, bouncing back to Coastal Carolina, looking to make an impact there. That's who Dominic Cressetto, our Sunbelt Syndicate host, actually believes is going to get. That's his pick if he had to, if he was a betting man. They told me that after we had recorded last week's episode. And finally, you've got the freshman, 6'2", 185, Osiris Lopez, a 3-star, according to 24/7 Sports, threw for 3,358 yards a senior year of high school, 48 total touchdowns. Kid can play. You've got 4 options, and I don't think there's a wrong one, Joe.
An interesting quarterback room, isn't it, TJ? Right? I mean, so I think as we look to 2026, we have completely flipped that room. And if I had to put my, thinking cap on, if I had to make a prediction as to who might be the starter at West Virginia come September, early September, kickoff up there, I might go with Deuce Bailey, and it's only really because, and maybe because, that he has familiarity with his coaching staff, and they have familiarity with him, right? He was a Conference USA Freshman of the Week in October. He got those 3 games in. They know what they have in him, right? Even though he's 6 feet and 170, that's not really the prototypical size for an FBS kind of quarterback. Trey Guerra comes in. He threw for almost 2,900 yards in junior college last year, right? So he can obviously wing the football around. Trevor Jackson only threw 1 pass last year, played for Bobby Petrino, right, at Arkansas. But again, he might be the guy, according to some people, right? And the one really that do you play a true freshman, Osiris Lopez, even though he got spring practice, and he came in and played spring ball with Coastal and got used to what's going on and knows the coaching staff by now. Massachusetts all-time high school leader in touchdown passes. He can throw the ball into the end zone, right? So he can do some interesting things too. I think they have made an upgrade in the quarterback room this year with these 4 guys coming in. So it will be interesting. Again, my pick, obviously, is Deuce Bailey coming in from Missouri State, only because he's had that familiarity with Coach Beard and the staff and Nick Petrino and these guys. So it's going to be interesting to see, right? But obviously injuries will be a factor. Hopefully these guys can stay upright. We don't have a guy go down like we did last year in fall camp, which really kind of put us behind the 8 ball, which we kind of felt all season long, right? Hopefully these guys will stay upright, and it should be a great battle. Should be a great battle to see who's going to be the starter at West Virginia.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned familiarity with the coaching staff for Deuce Bailey. It's also worth noting, as Dominic Cressetto said last week on the show, this is going to be an under center quarterback. And Deuce Bailey is the only guy, I would assume, out of all 4 of these guys that has familiarity going under center and taking snaps. The shotgun formation has become the norm in college football, in high school football. So that is an advantage for Deuce Bailey. My money, you've got Deuce Bailey. Trevor Jackson is Dom's guy. Phil Steele says Trey Guerra, which I love that pick. But that means I have to go with Osiris Lopez. That's what that means, so that we can keep everybody talking about it. But no, in all seriousness, his film, go watch his tape. His film is outstanding. No, just them at home. His film's outstanding. His film is outstanding. 48 total touchdowns his senior year. He can sling it. He's mobile. This is a guy this is the quarterback of the future. And in all honesty, whether or not you use him in certain sets this year, or if you use him as like the main guy coming off in a blowout in either direction, I'd like to see Osiris Lopez get some time this year. Just get some experience in college, the last time we had a guy that was either a redshirt freshman or a true freshman coming through the program with some high expectations, we went 11-0 in the regular season. So definitely, I would like to see, just for the sheer fact that he looks as good as he does on film and the fact that he can throw the ball as well as he does, both inside and outside the numbers, I'd like to see Osiris Lopez at least get more looks this season.
Here's the thing. If he winds up being the best quarterback on this team, he's got to be on the field, which the last coaching staff didn't see until it was too late, in my opinion, right? The best quarterback Coastal Carolina had last year didn't get in and really start playing significant snaps was until the ULM game, and that was Samari Collier. He was the kid that everybody responded to. He was the guy that made that offense run. He was the guy that gave that team a chance. If Osiris Lopez happens to be that guy, then he's got to play. And the interesting thing, too, about Lopez, among all the things that you already mentioned about how good he is talented on the field, he committed to Coach Beck and staff and stayed committed to Coastal even after the coaching change, which really was interesting to me. I felt like, okay, you know what? He had committed to Beck. Coach Beck gets fired. Staff gets overhauled. Here comes Ryan Beard. He's bringing his kid in from Missouri State. We're going to bring some other kids in. Yeah, Osiris Lopez will, he'll gravitate and go somewhere else. No, he stayed with Coastal. He loved this place and still loves it, and came in for spring practice, and so he's getting himself ready to go for 26. If he's the most talented kid, I don't care if he's a true freshman. If he can get it done and those kids respond to him more than they do anybody else, he's got to play, period. He's got to play.
No, absolutely. And, we talked last week about the Tim Beck parting of ways with Coastal Carolina. Say what you want about Tim Beck and whether or not he was a fit for the job. I tend to agree that he wasn't. He was a heck of a recruiter. And at multiple stops, he was a heck of a recruiter. And this is his guy. So I'm very excited to see Osiris Lopez at least get on the field. I'd like to see him get some extended playing time, but let's see him this year. Let's see him for his minimum 4 games, and then maybe he uses a red shirt. If he's the best guy, play him. That's all I ask.
100%. And maybe we see him in the Fordham game early, right? I mean, that's kind of a game that Coastal's expected to win.
Yeah, we didn't go over the we said we were going to. We said we were going to go over the non-conference because you had some thoughts on it. Let's just take a break really quick. That's the quarterback battle. West Virginia opening game on September 5th. And then, of course, you've got Fordham in week 2, and then you're at Delaware in week 3. And then you finish up the non-con on a Thursday night in Conway, welcoming back Jamie Chadwell to Brooks Stadium. Joe,
Wow.
I'll just pass it over to you. I mean, what a non-con.
Wow. I tell you what, I mean, so you look at this thing, right, and you're excited about the West Virginia opener. How much are you going to really learn about your team going up against a Big 12 club in the opening game of the Ryan Beard era? I'm not real sure how much. We're going to find out. Maybe we find out a lot in that game. Maybe we don't. That's a fun game to go play. And I have a chance to win. I mean, West Virginia's coming off a tough season. Rich Rodriguez goes back to Morgantown, but they don't do particularly well last year. This will be year 2 for him. And obviously they had to go out and get some speed and try to get better at a lot of positions. And so they think they're going to be able to do that. So what do we learn in that game? Not real sure, but be fun to go up against a Rich Rod team again. We beat them beat him when he was at Jacksonville State a couple times, right? I mean, they're going to run the ball, throw it around a lot, try to speed things up. They're going to get warp speed, so that's going to be interesting. The second game this season, Fordham, a 1-11 Patriot League football team last year, right? I mean, this is an FCS game you put on the schedule to pick up a win, even though, last year's FCS game you put on the schedule to pick up a win was 3-0 late in the fourth quarter, for crying out loud, against Charleston Southern.
It's a little uncomfortable. A little uncomfortable watching that one.
A lot, very uncomfortable. It's like, are we going to lose to this crowd? No, we didn't wind up losing to them. But anyway, Fordham's on the schedule to pick up a win. The game that I really believe where we will learn the most about what's going on in year one of the Ryan Beard era will be at Delaware. That's a fascinating game to me, right? I mean, they were a first-year FBS team last year, and they went 7-6. That's a pretty good FBS start for them. And we got to go to Delaware to play, right, in week 3. So that will be a game that I think we'll find out, maybe get our best look, get our best indication of where things are at the start of the Ryan Beard era. And then, oh, man, then you mentioned it, 4 days later on a Thursday night, here comes Jamie Chadwell back to town.
That's cinema for you.
I mean, there are so many storylines around this. Not only Coach Chadwell coming back to a place that he built into an FBS, power, really. I mean, G6 power, right? Liberty back in the day, for those of us who remember, was Coastal's biggest football rival, the biggest, most bitter football rival that we had. And it wasn't even close. I mean, there wasn't any other team in the Big South Conference that we hated more and wanted to beat more than Liberty. And I know there will be some people, a lot of people that think like me that, man, App State, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, whoever else you think our main rival is now. Back in the day, it was Liberty. And losing that bowl game to them back in 2020 was a bitter, bitter pill.
Let me cut you off for a second. Let me cut you off. That game,
you were there.
That final drive is the most egregious non-call PI that I have ever seen in my life. The most egregious non-call PI. It is Saints Rams, Coastal Liberty. That is how egregious that was. And I'm so glad that you brought it up because I've been waiting. I've been waiting to talk about that. Hiley has a touchdown or at least a first and goal. If that gets called, I'll let you continue your thought. That is the most egregious non-call I have ever seen in a football game.
I don't really know what to add to that, to be honest with you, TJ. I mean, I was there, you were there too. I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, we had a MAC officiating crew that night, and they actually called a penalty on a drive where we scored a touchdown and took it off the board. That wasn't a penalty. It was not they called a procedure on us early in that game that was not. Just horrible. Should have wound up with a field goal instead of a touchdown, which wound up being the difference in the ball game, by the way. But
I mean, we're fully off the rails at this point. So let me just keep going.
Yeah.
This game, it frustrates me so much about that 2020 team because that call changes the outcome of the game. Yeah. And you're talking about a team that, in my humble opinion, shouldn't have even been there because they're one of the few teams that played a full schedule that year. They're 11-0. Why are they not the G5 representative in the New Year's Six? That's America's team in 2020, and I believe they gave it to Cincinnati instead.
That's who it went to. Yeah, Cincinnati got it. Yeah,
unbelievably wrong. Like they should have had the opportunity to go, but now you get put into a bowl game against Liberty. I think that's a fair consolation prize, getting a rivalry game in a bowl game, chance to go 11-0. But now you look back and the rest of the Sun Belt respects that team a whole lot less because they lost the bowl game. They're not undefeated. They're not the 12-0 season. They didn't face Louisiana in the Sun Belt championship game. They are co-champions. It's a team that they beat earlier that season.
No question about it on a late field goal, by the way. Yeah.
That entire situation with them losing that game, like when you bring up the Liberty game, it riles me up. So many things that we could continue to talk about. It just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Jamie Chadwell's on the hot seat too at Liberty this year. I mean, they had a really tough year last year. They didn't do much of anything. They were bad. That's a bad football team last year. And Jamie kind of on the hot seat up there. A lot of Liberty people want to run him off. And of course he had some health problems, which he announced after the season. And I hope and pray that coach is okay. I mean, I still have a good relationship with Jamie. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there are things that were done that could have been done to keep him around Coastal. And I'll always believe that. Others don't believe that. And that's fine. I don't, whatever. But I think he could have been kept had things been done differently. But he chose to go to Liberty, and so now he's up there, and now he's on the. I think this is a big year for them to get things turned around, because they put a ton of money into everything they do at Liberty, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so this is going to be, again, so many storylines around this game, so much intrigue about this thing, and again, old timers like me who remember the old Big South days, and of course you who remember that bowl game in 2020, and this is one that we need. This is one that we need to win. West Virginia, whatever. We should beat Fordham. Delaware's toss up to me. I mean that's a very intriguing game in terms of where we are in year one of Brian Beard. This Liberty game, we need to win this game. We need to win this game.
I think beating Liberty would be a huge exclamation point on Ryan Beard's resume early on, especially for just what that means. And just to kind of add on to that, Jamie Chadwell, as a person, he is fantastic. He is a phenomenal person. I've got a great relationship with Coach as well. I wish him nothing but the best, and I honestly hope he doesn't get fired up there. Like I hope that he turns it around this season. I mean, you're talking about a guy who brought Liberty to the New Year's Six, and I would love to see him have success, but not on September 24th.
Nope.
Not on September 24th, a Thursday in Conway. So we went off the rails there for a second. So that question was by Pete. Congratulations, Pete. That might be the best question of the entire segment right now. Now we'll go to the unpopular mindset. He says, quote, more off topic, but when do you think we'll see a new basketball arena and upgraded athletic facilities? It's been talked about for a while, and I think it would be a great investment, not only for Coastal Athletics, but also to help attract concerts, tournaments, and other events. Do you have you want to start off with this one, or should I?
TJ, the only thing I can add to that, or that I can, speak to that. I mean, we, on, the Strut that I was on, the Strut podcast, we had former President Michael Benson on, and he kind of laid out a long-term strategic plan for the campus and the growth, and moving University Boulevard, which they're in the process of doing right now, and building some other venues and whatnot on campus. I mean, obviously, I think a new arena was that was included in this master plan. But where they are in that, I have no idea. Yeah, the HTC Center, it served its purpose for a while, but we, Coastal Carolina, we need a new arena. The unpopular mindset is exactly right. We need a new arena to attract all of the things that he's talking about, right? So where they are in this process, I couldn't speak to it. I don't know at this point. Hopefully things are moving forward and we'll get something soon.
Here's the one thing that I'll add. This isn't necessarily a disagreement, but this is, I think that there needs to be, something needs to happen in order to get that, right? You're talking about a program that historically Coastal men's basketball hasn't been great. Right. It has not been great. You're also talking about attendance numbers for an arena that holds 3,600. They average about 1,600. So it doesn't hold a lot as it stands, and you're not filling it. And that's not a knock against Coastal basketball. That's not a knock against the fans. That's just the reality of the situation is you're not filling the arena. Why invest in a new one? That being said, Coastal men's basketball last season under Justin Gray made a tremendous step forward. 19-13 on the season, tied for second in the Sun Belt. They claimed the 3 seed in the Sun Belt tournament in Pensacola. Justin Gray, in my opinion, a university needs to put out a good product in order to expect the fans to go see it, right? In the same token, if the fans are going to expect a better facility, they need to go to the games. I think that Justin Gray has done his part, right? And now this is a brand new basketball team pretty much, so we'll see how he moves forward after last season. Mm-hmm. But this is, Justin Gray's done his part. Go see the games, start selling out the HTC Center, start making them aware that there is a lot of demand for the 3,600 there. Make it standing room only, like the South Carolina game a few years back.
Remember that, yep.
And now when you do that consistently, and if Coastal keeps putting a consistent product out on the field, then we can start talking about venues or building something new or retooling or recycling something into a basketball arena. Let me ask you this question. No, I'll let you. You were about to say something. Go ahead.
I also think in terms of graduation and events like that, the HTC Center has outlived its purpose. I think if you're going to have those events there, which they do, and which you have to have them sometimes indoors, I think a bigger arena above and beyond, just moving beyond men's basketball, right, for just other events. And graduation is a big thing, right? I mean, so I think a bigger venue would tremendously help Coastal Carolina to move out of the HTC. And again, hopefully somewhere, and not just graduation too, but you talk about concerts and other events and all that kind of stuff where you need that space, right? Mm-hmm. Bring them to campus. You have something big enough to where it can host something like that, whatever it is, right? So
yeah, no, I agree with you. In terms of just the overall space, right? Yeah. You could use something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Force the university. Go to the basketball games, both men and women. Make sure that they know that there's not enough space there. That's my recommendation. And it doesn't even have to be a 20,000 seat arena. Cameron Indoor only holds a little under 10,000, but they've been selling it out since 1990. So that's the ticket there. Just start selling out sporting events, and you'll start to show them that you'll start to show the university, hey, we need something new. The only requirement for me, as though I make these decisions, the only requirement is that you keep it on campus and you don't go to Myrtle. That's my only request. Make it an on-campus environment, especially for sporting events. Don't make people travel, because then it will be more difficult to fill the stadium if you up the capacity. Keep it on campus, let the students in, make it a crazy environment like they do at Cameron Indoor. I'd love that.
Yeah, I don't think Myrtle would go for that anyway.
Yeah,
there are a lot of politics involved, TJ, and stuff like this. I mean, there a few years ago, back in the day, there was a 7,000 seat arena plan that was out there that turned into what you see in the HTC Center today. So,
no, absolutely. And then the other piece of this, another basketball question was the non-conference. We'll touch on this for a second. The two big ones that we saw, Tennessee and Duke, added to the schedule. Special thanks to Zach Capps for helping us out with this. And then in the Sunbelt MAC Challenge, you've got you're kicking off the season with Eastern Michigan. Mm-hmm. Tougher non-conference schedule than we're used to.
No
right?
question.
So, yeah.
No doubt about that. How about a chance you go to Tennessee and then go to Duke? I mean, those are two great opportunities, two great venues to go play for our men's basketball team. Win or lose, you're just going to go there and play. It's awesome.
You making the drive up to Cameron Indoor?
I don't know, man. I'll have to see if I can make that work. I've never been to Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Oh, I can tell you, just a side note for a second, I took photos on the floor at Cameron Indoor for Duke Syracuse. And I got to tell you, as someone who grew up despising Duke, because I grew up
me too.
Grew up despising Duke, they have one heck of an environment at Cameron Indoor. It feels like Disney World for college basketball when you walk in there. So if you ever get the chance, this time, I recommend it. But tougher non-conference schedule, and I think that this is Justin Gray really utilizing that iron sharpens iron mentality.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you've seen too many teams in the past, you know, at the end of the Cliff Ellis era, towards the beginning of the Justin Gray era, where you watch these Coastal Carolina men's basketball teams go, you know, the first 10 games, they go 8-2, or they go 7-3, or they go 9-1. And then you get into the in-conference slate and they're getting blown out by guys like, you know, I remember when Little Rock and UT Arlington used to come to town.
Oh, yeah, I remember those two teams in the league, yeah.
And blow Coastal out of the water, because those are two really good basketball schools at the G5 level. Mm-hmm. So watching Justin Gray make the conscious decision to, you know, I don't mean to, you know, hate on Coastal Carolina right now, but to accept the fact that you're probably going to walk out of there with 2 losses in those 2 games against Tennessee and Duke. But to go get that experience and to show your players, you know, this is what it takes. This is what it takes to compete in an elite basketball conference, and to take that and apply it to the Sun Belt. I love it. It, you know, iron sharpens iron. If you walk out of there with a win against one of those 2 teams, I mean, look out for Coastal Carolina at the G5 ranks.
Great to recruit to that kind of schedule too. You know, I think that's probably a big reason why they're, you know, accepting these games, because we're going to get some money to go play these teams, right? I mean, that's kind of part of it. But I think from a recruiting standpoint, if you can pitch guys, hey, look, you know, I mean, we're going to be heavy underdogs, but you can come here to Coastal Carolina, compete in a great league in the Sun Belt, but you can also go play in some places like Tennessee and a Duke. And get to play in those environments. And who knows? I mean, you go in there and you battle these guys. Who knows what will happen? Probably not going to win, maybe not. But, I mean, we're never going to go into a game thinking we're going to lose. You know, you're going to go into every game thinking you're going to win. You know, you can recruit kids to that. Hey, I want to go play there. I want to go play in this place, right? I want to have a chance to play against the best teams in the country, the best that college basketball has to offer. Love to go play in a place like that.
Yeah, I say again, iron sharpens iron. I mean, you see in 2025 on the baseball side of things, they go and face North Carolina twice. They face Clemson twice. They win against Clemson both times. They play Wake Forest. I believe they split the Wake Forest series in 2025. But those types of performances, that leads to success down the line and eventually in Omaha. So,
no question.
You know, we're not quite there yet, I don't think, on the basketball side of things. I think that 19-13 is an incredible start, tremendous step in the right direction. But this is the type of scheduling that you see the big-time coaches, the guys who really make a name for themselves, especially at the mid-major level, they're scheduling these types of games, and they are acclimating their teams to playing in these types of environments. So we'll see what happens. You know, maybe we walk out of there with a win against Tennessee or Duke. Who knows? Wishful thinking. But I think that this is a building block for years to come, is games like this.
Yep, no question. Totally agree.
Finish it up with this. This is the final question. World Cup this season. Do you think that this question, I'll get you who this question came from, but with the World Cup and everything surrounding, soccer, do you think that the Coastal Carolina soccer team gets a little uptick?
Well, I mean, we have a new coach in Adam Perrin who comes from Virginia, right? And he's developed a bunch of Major League Soccer players, in his time up in Charlottesville. And, Virginia's had a top-notch men's soccer program for a lot of years. And so we're starting over. Sean Docking did a tremendous job in a bunch of years at Coastal. Can't tell you how much I admire Sean. I've known Sean for a long time, and wish him all the best. But now again, we're starting over with Coach Perrin. But we'll just see how it works out. I mean, I think the prospects look good. I mean, you're getting a guy again who comes from a program of success, who has developed a lot of talent at the next level. So hopefully, it's an interesting question. We'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing a new start, a new beginning for Coastal men's soccer. Interesting to watch this team develop here in the 2026 season, see where they go. And maybe the World Cup is something that, that's such a fun event to watch it. Even though the U.S. got knocked out before the finals, obviously in the semis and whatnot, but hey, that's a great event to watch. Fans, it's amazing the fans get into it, right? I mean,
yeah.
Maybe that carries over. Maybe that's something for Coastal Soccer to make a big bounce.
You can see that everything behind me is pretty much Coastal Carolina except for one thing, and it's the Cape Verde scarf right
there
here. I am Cape Verdean, and getting to watch that happen. Yep. That run was just incredible for me and my family. So, I think that you also have to take into consideration that Coastal Carolina soccer usually pretty good. Usually very good.
Very good track record. A lot of history, a lot of winning. Coach Docking did a great job as the Coastal men's soccer coach. And a lot of wins, NCAA tournament appearances, conference championships. A lot of history of winning at Coastal men's soccer.
A lot of history of winning, and they just did what they did with the soccer facility. New bleachers, new everything. So this could be a really big season for attendance, especially if Coastal Carolina under new leadership continues to do well, continues to do big things. So this could be a really big year for attendance with the newfound interest. That question was from Iverson Reed on Instagram. Thank you to everybody who gave questions. We're going to put that out every single week. If we can get to a couple of questions, we're going to in between interviews. We didn't have an interview this week, so we figured we would answer some of your questions. Follow us at Teal Syndicate. You can see at the bottom of your screen. If you're listening to the audio version, at Teal Syndicate on both X and Instagram. And every Friday, just about every Thursday or Friday, we're going to put out a post. Ask whatever questions you want. We'll get to them during the course of the show. That's going to do it here for episode 2. Joe Cashion and TJ O'Sullivan back at it. Are you sick of me yet, Joe?
Oh, no, TJ, not at all. Not at all. Having a blast. These first 2 episodes have been great. Looking forward to a great year. Been a lot of fun so far.
Looking forward to a great season, great first season of the show with you. And the next guest that we have, we're not going to give everything away, but it's a doozy. It is a doozy. Joe Cashion could tell you. It is a really, really great guest that you guys are not going to want to miss. Be sure to check out episode 3. But this has been episode 2 of the Teal Syndicate Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.